This is a fan-generated show. If you would like to support us, please go to jamieglazov.com, and also don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel. All your support is greatly appreciated. Jihadist Psychopath by Dr. Jamie Glazov. I will tell you as an expert on Sharia, as a former child bride who has suffered and faced my own jihadi psychopath, I want you to go and order this book on Amazon.com or go to jamieglazov.com. Get a copy for yourself. You know why? Because you need to be equipped with the knowledge to fight our enemies so you can save your daughters and your granddaughters from future of Islam.
Good evening. Welcome to the Jamie Glazov moment. Tonight, Geraldo's embarrassing ignorance on Israel and Palestinians. Ladies and gentlemen, this was really something else the other evening on Hannity. Dan Bongino and Geraldo went at it over Tlaib's recent comments about how the Holocaust gives her a calming feeling in certain contexts. And so Bongino and Geraldo clashed over this. And so on the one hand, Geraldo began with something slightly true because some people perhaps were accusing Tlaib of saying that the Holocaust itself gave her a calming feeling. That's not what she was saying. However, she was saying that she gets a calming feeling thinking about how her ancestors, the Palestinian Arabs, had given a safe haven to Jewish people, escaping the Holocaust, etc., and that somehow she gets a calming feeling from knowing that the suffering of her people led to giving the Jews their own homeland because the Palestinians somehow lost their own homeland. This is all false. It's a lie. It's the worst kind of fake historical revisionism, and it's also Holocaust denial. I just explained this all and discussed it in my recent video, and for time's sake, I can't do it here. But Geraldo's behavior, just absolutely awful. Just very quickly before I get into some of the details, Bongino, great job, and you know, Dan Bongino, just a stand-up guy. He pointed out that this is a historical lie that Tlaib engaged in. There was no safe haven. The Palestinians were actually allied with the Nazis. And Geraldo said a couple things, just awful. You should look up that clip. I'm sure it's out there on YouTube and on other sites, etc. Geraldo argued that to say that Palestinians have some responsibility for the Holocaust is, quote, so historically inaccurate. He said that. He also on the show said, in that exchange, he said that the Palestinians had, quote, lost their homeland. And then you could see that he gets confused and he starts fumbling. But he does make the statement that there was some kind of partition of Israel in 1948. It came out wrong. You could see he was nervous, but he clearly doesn't know what he's talking about. Then he makes another statement how for 52 years the Palestinians have lived in occupied territory. Now Bongino, again, thumbs up go out to him because he calls out Geraldo on this and he asks, occupied by who? So let's get into this for a minute. Geraldo, the West Bank and Gaza are not occupied by Israel, okay? So let's just start with that. And before I go further, I've discussed all of this in my recent video, Tlaib and Palestinians' safe haven for Jews. Just look it up, it's a recent video. So let's just very quickly go over Geraldo's ignorance here. Number one, Palestinians have some responsibility for the Holocaust. To say that Palestinians have some responsibility for the Holocaust, according to Geraldo, is so historically inaccurate. That's what he said. Geraldo, if you're watching this, research who Mohammed Amin al-Husseini is, okay? And I explain it all in my recent video, and I encourage everybody that doesn't know, go look up Amin al-Husseini, for instance, at discoverthenetworks.org, a great site to be going to. Geraldo referring to the Palestinians losing some kind of homeland. Geraldo, name the leaders of this homeland. the Palestinian Arabs had an independent state at some time? What was the name of the leaders, of a leader? Name me one. I discussed this all again, as I said in my previous video, but just for now, I just want to say this. After World War II, like Jordan, like Iraq, like Syria, like Lebanon, Israel was created on land that originally belonged to the Turks, which lost that land because of the defeat in World War I. Okay, so these territories are carved out of the Ottoman Empire. There's no independent Arab or Palestinian state that ever existed in Palestine. There wasn't a homeland that somehow these awful, evil Jews come and take from the Palestinians. That didn't happen. Again, this is land that belonged to the Turks originally, and then it was lost after World War I, and all these different countries were carved out. The Palestinian Arabs had always opposed Jewish immigration, and they refused to the region, and they refused to live peacefully with Jewish people or alongside a Jewish state. After the war in 1947, I think this is what Geraldo was trying to refer to, but he has no clue what he's talking about. In 1947, the UN partition plan on mandatory Palestine. The plan was to give Israel its own state and also give an independent Arab nation for the Palestinian Arabs. The Arabs rejected that. They didn't want their own state. They just didn't want an Israeli state. They don't want an Israeli state. And as always, till this day, we know this very well, that the Arab world and the Palestinians, they're more interested in destroying Israel than creating a Palestinian independent state if Israel still exists. Now, after Israel was created and the Palestinian Arabs rejected, and the Arab world, they rejected the idea of a Palestinian, of an Arab nation there in Palestine. Okay, and so after Israel was created, the Arab leaders encouraged the Arabs in that region to flee, to leave that area, and to join afterwards. And they joined the invasion because there was an invasion of Israel by the surrounding Arab countries. Egypt, Syria, Jordan, Lebanon, Iraq, they all invaded to try to destroy Israel. So that's what happened at that time. The Palestinian Arabs were not engaged in any kind of effort to give Jews a safe haven. They were trying to kill Jews and destroy Israel. One more fact. Before the Six-Day War in 1967, for the duration of the Jordanian occupation of the West Bank and the Egyptian control of the Gaza Strip, Palestinian nationalists never talked about any desire for an independent state. It was only after 1967, when Israel took control of those areas, that kind of talk started, and we know why. Geraldo also says that for 52 years they, the Palestinians, the Palestinian Arabs, have lived in occupied territory. Bongino asked the right question. Occupied by who? Geraldo, what occupied territory are you talking about? Why are you on TV talking about these issues? You do know who rules over Gaza and the West Bank today, right? You've heard of Mahmoud Abbas, who rules the West Bank government. You do know about Hamas, which rules over Gaza. There's no Israelis there. So, Geraldo, are you actually implying that the existence of Israel is an occupation? Because you know what that means if that's what you mean. Geraldo, why don't you do an experiment since you're, you consider the Palestinian Arabs and the Palestinians the victims in all of this. Dress up as a Hasidic Jew and start walking down a street in Gaza and the West Bank. And whatever happens during that experiment will open up your eyes in terms of what is wrong with Rashida Tlaib's statement. Geraldo, you are an embarrassment. You're way out of your depth. learn some history, learn the history of the creation of Israel, learn the history of what the Palestinian Arabs were actually doing during all that time. And thank you, Dan Bongino, for always being a stand-up guy. And we really appreciate your commitment to the truth and all of your truth-telling. And Hannity, as always, you are #1. And we'll see you soon on the Glazov Gang. Good night.